Okie dokie, let's get this started for the day. We are hopefully going to be able to quickly implement a projectile weapon. We're going to probably steal most of the code from the existing FPS project because it works very well, and then go from there, see how we're doing. Stream probably won't be too long today because I do have family in town and I got a bunch of stupid stuff happening, but we'll make sure we get our stuff done for the day. So, happy day to everybody. I wiped my machine yesterday and reset everything to scratch, so hopefully I restored enough settings where I'm not going to have any issues. I'm hoping everything works well. And hello, Harry. Okay, so, I don't remember what I was doing. Oh yeah, so we're going to... hold on a second, bear with me. I know what I'm doing now, I just completely forgot. So yeah, if anyone, either watching it now or watching it later, has any complaints regarding the sound quality, sound level, music quality, music level, things like that, feel free to let me know so that way I can know what I need to readjust. I think most of the settings worked properly. I have a feeling that some of them did not. Like, for example, I had an issue with the audio input in OBS. So I will have to deal with that. So let's see. And we should have everything showing. Yep, okay, cool. So everything's showing. I'm not losing any frames. And we should be streaming at the proper speed. And it looks like everything's running good. So how's everyone doing today? Hopefully having a good day. Because that's what I'm hoping for. Because good days are always good days. Let's see. 9:51. Let's see. Nope, it's gonna go over. Yep, okay. So we have that, and then it is a. Let's see. Market at Lincoln Street. South Market, Lincoln Street. Okay, 1050 win. Videos on implementing vehicles. Unfortunately, I do not. I actually do have vehicles on my list of stuff to work on, and with the recent addition of the simple vehicle setup, I plan on doing something about it. Unfortunately, I have nothing, so I will not be able to help you with that right now. I need to sign in. Yeah, I haven't set up like half of my stuff at this point, which is highly amusing. I don't even remember where this account is. I think it's this one. I don't know. I guess find out. Let's see. I think this is right. Okay. I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out when I try to comment and it fails. Okay, so let's work on our projectile weapon, shall we? Let's figure out where my chat went to. There we go. And my video. There we go. So the easiest way is I'm going to find the launcher, and I'm going to open up a first-person project. So I'll grab this one. And we are basically going to duplicate the projectile oh, come on, word, seriously. Projectile impulse code is what we're going to do. And in regards to the simple vehicle setup, what it is inside of Blueprints, they added a new component called Simple Wheeled Vehicle Movement. And it's a component that allows you to create a simple wheeled vehicle with a set of defined wheels. So you could have 1 wheel, 2 wheels, 5 wheels, 7 wheels, and it's intended to help make a vehicle work, not using your standard 4 wheel setup. So once they added that in, and that's something that I'll probably working on. Okay, so here's our character, and this is how the traditional one works. Here's our normal first person. We fire, and it fires off the projectile. It's our normal, simple output, and all this simply does is We can ignore most of this stuff. This is all for the animation. What we care about is this stuff. We're basically spawning in a new projectile. And that projectile, if we look at the projectile, is intended to handle itself. Basically, it will have a projectile movement component on it. And basically, when it spawns in, it goes. It's designed to handle itself. So that's probably what we're going to recreate. It's really simple. Basically, once we do the line trace for the projectile, we just spawn a projectile, and then the projectile itself will handle itself. So this will give us the ability to have one bit of projectile code, but the weapon itself will have maybe different ammo, and then that different ammo, like if it's a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher, the ammo behaves differently because we've designed it that way. So let's go back to finding this, and we're going to go ahead and I guess we'll go into weapon, and then we'll make a new blueprint, and we'll call this one an actor, and this will be the blueprint weapon projectile. Let's do a projectile parent like this. And we'll put all of our projectile code in it, and this allows us to subclass down into a grenade or a rocket or a mine or something like that easily. We'll add in a projectile to it. And right now at this point, I have no clue what's going to work. I think we're going to need to add a sphere as the parent. I'm just pretty much going to steal the code because it works very well. Okay, they have a collision, they have a sphere. I wonder why they have a collision separate from the sphere. Maybe because it allows you to adjust the size of the collision volume. Yeah, see, they have the collision volume bigger than the sphere itself. Okay, so that'll make sense. Well, if we added impulse, it'll give it immediate velocity. What this way is set up is basically it just spawns in an actor. Yeah, it's just going to spawn in an actor, and then that actor has a projectile movement component on it. And this projectile movement component basically gives an actor projectile-like movement automatically. So we could have a homing missile set up easily, or we could have like a really fast bullet. Technically, we could do if we set up the proper settings, or like in this case, it fires off like a almost like a grenade. I'd say this is more like a grenade because of the fact that it doesn't have long range and it kind of shoots off in like a little arc. This would probably be a good example of like a grenade. And the only reason it bounces is because it's set up to bounce. You can adjust that in the settings for the projectile. So let's go. Let's get this implemented in here. So we're gonna want to add a sphere. Crap. Now, assuming our projectile was round, then a sphere component as the root would work perfectly fine. Okay, first of all, when I said sphere, I meant a sphere collision as the... Can I please set you up as the root? Really? 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 Oh. Is it not going to let me replace the parent because I accidentally put the stupid projectile movement? Oh, man. Okay, well, that fixes it. But anyways, this is why I was saying, oh, man. Technically, we have our collision and we have our sphere. I have no clue what it's going to end up like. Let's drop this into our scene and find out. Okay, that's going to be a giant friggin' projectile. So let's get this something like 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. That's probably going to be too small. What do we think? Let's go into our scene and find out. Oh no, we'll leave that at 0.2. Then we'll change our collision to something like 16? 14? 12? Yeah, we'll go something like that. Okay. The problem is, since I'm using this as a parent, if I have, let's say, a rocket, then a sphere collision is not going to work very well. Which doesn't make me very happy. So what I'm thinking is, we're going to do a capsule collider for our parent instead of the sphere. And this will allow us to adjust this collider appropriately. So we could rotate the collider and have, yep, there's words here, but they are failing miserably. We get the ability to do something like this, where we have our normal sphere, which is what we want. Set it like this, but we also have the ability to extend it if we have like a rocket, or flatten it if we have something like a mine. So this will probably give us the most amount of flexibility. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll do the projectile movement, and we're just simply going to set this up like this. Let's see, velocity on the x of 1, yeah, so we should be good there. So let's just see what happens if we play this and see what happens. Whoa, okay, 3,000 was quite a nice chunk of. Let's rotate this so we can see what happens when we play this. Oh, man, I'm not even. Oh, it's probably got no collision set up, huh? Yep, so let's go back in there. We're gonna go with collide. We're gonna tell it to block all dynamic. I don't think block all dynamic is what I want, but we'll find out. Let's play this. There we go, okay. So that technically does what we want. It fired off really quickly. We don't have the projectile set to bounce, for example. So if we wanted to, we could tell it to, where's your bounce? Should bounce, and bounciness is fine. And then now we should get a bouncing component without having to do anything extra. So we'll leave it like that, and we're just simply gonna fire that off. It should have a forward X vector, because that's going to be outward from our weapon, and that's fine. So let's set up a weapon that is simply going to fire that off. Yeah, so let's add it. We have a grenade launcher in here, right? Data table. We have a grenade launcher. Technically, we have the knife for the icon, so let's change this into the pistol again. Obviously, I should change this into something better, but I don't have it. This is our blow stuffer upper. We're only going to allow single fire for this weapon. We will not discard the magazine. It's going to have a reload time of 1.5 seconds. Delay between firing is going to be 1.5 seconds. Actually, let's do reload time. Let's do reload time of 2. We're going to go ahead and give it 6 ammo. It's going to come with 6 ammo. When you pick it up, you only get the 6 ammo. It's 1 ammo per. It's a grenade and it's a projectile. And let's give it a let's give it our pistol sounds, because we don't have anything else. Okay. So in theory, then, our grenade launcher should have changed, and it's still showing me the pistol. Did I change it incorrectly? No? Okay, so I'm guessing we need to have this thing rebuild it. Yep, because it's a construction script. We had it rebuild. Okay. So now we should be able to pick up the grenade launcher.
Bang!
It's firing off the projectile,
Bang!
which is fine.
Bang!
We've got 1.5 seconds
Bang!
between each one.
Bang! Click.
Now nothing's technically firing because we don't have it set up. So at least we have a weapon we can now test. So we have our action button and we have our firing method projectile. So let's set up a new firing method called projectile. And it's going to be really, I don't think it's similar to this one, right? I don't think we really need to do anything other than spawn and fire it, right? Yeah, this is a montage. This is for where we want to spawn it at. But if we have a, if we have a firing point on the weapon, then we know where we're going to fire it from. We'll just have to make sure the rotation's proper, which we can do based on the firing point. So all we should need is technically the spawn first-person projectile. So let's see about setting it up like that. Should be pretty simple. So let's make a new firing method. This will be the firing method projectile. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put melee down here, so it's out of the way. And we'll go back to our firing method line trace. And in theory, we're gonna do this really simple. Let's see, spawn actor from class. And for now, we're just gonna spawn in our projectile for testing purposes. Now we're gonna have an issue because we're not spawning it in the proper space, but this is where we're good. Okay, so here's the weapon attach point, here's the weapon attach mesh. Now technically, we're gonna have a small issue here because we want to find the spot to spawn it at so it looks like it's coming from the weapon. Is what we want to do. So how do we do that? Basically, we have our weapon object, which technically doesn't exist. It's just an object for data. And the only thing we have inside of our character is attached mesh. So we would need... This is where it would be nice to have a properly designed weapon. If you design your weapon properly, we could put a bone on the weapon for where you're holding it, and we could also put a bone on the firing point for every weapon. So we could easily have the weapon designed where its firing point is, or firing points, so that we would easily be able to grab our weapon, grab the firing point bone from it, and feed that in for where it's at. Fortunately, we can't do that. So sockets is probably what we're going to want to do. So where's our mesh for our weapon? And I don't remember how to easily add in a socket, let alone if you can do it to a stacked mesh. This is one of those things that I just have gone, okay, here we go, create socket. Well, that wasn't very hard. Yeah, I'd rather use bones because you could do it in the building process. You wouldn't have to do it in here. But I don't think we're going to have much of a choice on that one. So let's go with, what was that, 65. And what values we have here? 0 and 15. We'll go something like that. We'll go something like that. Okay. And this is going to be our firing point socket. And we'll tag it the same. Firing point socket. Technically, we could preview it with the firing mesh, but we don't have that. Sockets are virtual points on something. A bone is technically a point on the skeleton that can be used for animation and things like that. You do the bones in the content creation software such as Maya or Modo or Max, and then you do the sockets inside of Unreal here. The biggest difference is bones are technically attached to other bones or certain points, so it allows animation to work. You can't really do animation based on sockets easily, so that's the biggest difference. And if we did this as a bone setup, we would have a bone, for example, where the attach point is for like the front hand, and another bone for like the attach point on the back hand, like one on the grip and one on the underbarrel, for example. We could have 2 socket points, so that way our hands would know where to go to. And then you could have bones attached to, like, maybe if you wanted some sort of an animation to fire off and it like ripples the front of the gun. The biggest difference in my personal experience is the bones are done at creation time and the sockets are done at design time. I guess might be the easiest way of putting it. And they both have limitations. You can't really animate something with sockets. Okay, so we are going to get the mesh that's attached to there, and then we're going to get socket, which this is where it gets a little iffy for me because it's not something I've used in a while. Yeah, James has got a good one right there. Yeah, bones can have inverse kinematics. Yeah, bones are primarily used to, you know, for animations, physics, and things like that. Sockets just are holders for stuff. But I created a socket inside the stack mesh, but how do I get the socket? Because this thing is not letting me get a socket. Because these all refer to skeletal meshes. Which I don't have. And here's the status mesh socket. Okay. This is really helpful. Crap. Here, let me put this in here like this. Yeah, see, all the weapon attached mesh is gonna give me the stack mesh, but how do I get the socket out of the stack mesh? Oh man. I've only ever used sockets before on skeletal meshes. For example, some of the Infinity Blade assets, I took a one of the gargoyles and I added the wings. I stole the wings off of the angel statue, and then I put the wings on the gargoyle using a socket because it makes it really easy. And since it's attached to this gargoyle, anytime the gargoyle animates, the wings animated properly in the right place. But that was on a skeletal mesh. And according to this thing is not happy. Hold on. Does socket exist? Get socket location weapon attached. Okay. Okay, hold on. There we go. Yeah, okay, weapon attached mesh. There we go. Okay. And that was the firing point socket. Okay, let's see if this works, shall we? Let's do some print string debugging, shall we? If we fire off the projectile, we're going to print out, in theory, the socket location. Which means we need to now hook up our firing method for projectile, which is in our event graph. So let's see, firing method. Firing method projectile. It goes back to here. Okay, so let's see what happens here, shall we? And hide that. Okay, we need a...
Bang. Bang.
Okay, something. Yep, something's coming
Bang.
out. Okay, so we're getting something. So I think that might do it. We at least had more than I, thought we'd get. Okay, wait, can I just get the socket transform? Okay, yeah, because we want the whole transform technically. Because I want the rotation as well to make sure when it spawns it in the facing direction. Like this, and we spawn a projectile. Yep, I do not use sockets, so this is all new to me. I technically want it in the world space. I want to know where in the world it is. Okay, so firing point socket. I hope I named that right. Let's find out. Firing point socket. Firing point socket. Okay, so let's see what happens. I mean, literally, the worst that's gonna happen is we're gonna have problems.
Bang. Bang.
Which
Bang. Bang. Bang.
Oh, I grabbed the wrong weapon, so that really didn't help, did it? No, wait.
Bang. Bang.
Wait, isn't this a grenade launcher? Yeah.
Bang.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Bang.
Oh, look, we got it working. Okay.
Bang.
There we go. Projectile weapon.
Bang.
Oh.
Bang.
Which obviously, oh, that was getting cool. It obviously doesn't collide with me.
Bang.
But okay, cool. So we got it working. Let's try that again.
Bang.
Obviously, it's not firing.
Bang.
It's firing straight from our gun. It's not firing at a certain point. So that's more of an issue with design. Because I think the... yeah, see, this one, if you notice, is aimed at the middle. But it will notice on the farther bullets, it kind of really doesn't go there. You notice it goes below. Like that. Good morning, Sterling. Hopefully we are having a good day today. We are having a day here today. But yeah, we have this working. Because our weapon's rotated like that, we're gonna get the weird bullet effect.
Bang.
Let's slow this down. So let's go to our projectile weapon, and let's go ahead and create a child from it, and we're gonna call this one grenade. We're gonna go ahead and make our grenade a little bit lazier. We'll give it something like an initial speed of 1,000, and the max speed's 1,000. And we'll keep the bounciness on. Whoops. But let's make it not bounce very much. We'll give it like bounciness of 2, with a pretty decent friction for stopping. Let's go ahead and go back into our firing, and let's spawn in the grenade for testing purposes. That. Okay. We'll pick up a grenade launcher and fire off a grenade. And oh, what's happening is I keep picking up the stupid grenade launcher and the other gun at the same time.
Bang.
There we go.
Bang.
That is a very pathetic grenade launcher.
Bang.
But it is a grenade launcher nonetheless. It's kind of like we need like a foom sound, so it'll be like foom. Okay.
Bang. Click.
Okay, cool. So we have working grenades. I'm not happy with the way it's rotating, but that's because of our weapon and our spot. I'm curious. I'm going to test something right now. This should end up horribly, but I am very curious on it.
Bang.
Yep, our bullets fire sideways.
Bang.
That's what I figured. So, for example, if we were to take our firing point socket, we'll rotate this back to 90. Let's offset it by 10 degrees. See if it gives us a little bit better result.
Bang. 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 Bang.
Okay, looks like that one might have been a bit too much. Let's go with something more like 355. So a 5% offset.
Bang.
Yeah, okay.
Bang.
That seems a little better. Granted, we have a very poor weapon, but I mean, that's just the way I designed it. We'll give it a little more foomph this time. Let's let's see. Technically, we want rotation follows velocity, so that way when it's going down, it'll rotate down. It doesn't help because we have a sphere, but if we had a proper model, it'll arc down as needed. Let's go with an initial speed of 2,000. See what that does.
Bang. Bang.
See, we kind of don't have the best training course here.
Bang.
I don't know, maybe we should make it 3,000. Maybe we should just
Click.
make it just like...
Click.
Maybe we should keep it at 3. Oh, I set the initial. Yeah, that doesn't help if you don't change your max speed either. That was kind of silly. Let's try that again. 2,000. There we go.
Bang.
Now we have the proper 2,000.
Bang. Bang.
There we go.
Bang. Bang. Click.
And go foop. Okay. Hello, Mr. Senior Engine. We're gonna go with that. That is literally a projectile weapon. That is the epitome of a projectile weapon. We're not using the proper ammo, so we need to technically fix that. So we need to pass in the proper ammo for the projectile weapon to fire off. So, where is our... Let's figure out where the smartest place to do that would be. We know inside of our data table, for our weapon, we have a projectile type. We have, an ammo type. So basically, if it's a projectile weapon, we need to get the ammo type out of the weapon and then pass it along to our firing code. So what I'm thinking is, our code is right here. and basically based on the weapon type, we tell it to do something. So if we get our weapon like this, and we get the ammo type, and then we pass it along into our firing method projectile. So find our firing method projectile input, and this is going to be the ammo type. This way we can keep it clean, and we can keep the ammo type discovery inside of our projectile firing method. Crap. Okay, so I'd like some feedback from people on this one. I'm trying to keep things as decoupled as possible. For example, I have an ammo type, and this ammo type is grenade in this instance. Now, grenade is going to map to this blueprint, the weapon projectile grenade. I need to map them somehow. Do I go into my data, and do I add a new entry to my data table for the class for the actual weapon itself? That way it's defined in a data table and not in the code. Or do I go, for example, I would do something like a select, and I would do a we never technically finished this, so give me a second. This is the other option. Ammo class. This would be a class, yeah. No, I literally want a class. Are you not going to let me input a class? Are you really not going to let me input a class? Oh, probably. Okay, I just lost myself. Hold on. Where'd my firing method go? Why won't you? Oh, never mind. It's an actor, and I need the class for the actor. Yeah, that's right. There we go. So this would be the other option. And then, for example, grenade would be the grenade, and then plasma would be, plasma, whatever. The different ones would have the different types. So it would basically be hard-coded here. And then it passes along the projectile into our method, and then that passes along the class to spawn like this. So basically, hard-code it somewhere inside the game itself, in the character, in the ammo, or the weapon. And let's say I added in a rocket launcher. Well, then I would have to go back into here, hook up the correct type in here for the rocket launcher, and be done with it. Or if I put it in the data table, then I technically only need to grab the current ammo class and pass it in every single time. The difference being we're hard coding it as an extra variable on the weapon, or we are doing just a simple check inside of our character and then determining which ammo type. This method, I think, would be smarter because it ends up letting us define it in one place, and we don't have to worry about updating it anywhere else. But then our object itself becomes larger because we now have we have another variable. So, it's a plus. I'm thinking for maintenance purposes, making sure our blueprints are clean, we should put it inside of here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here, and if anyone has any disagreements, just simply let me know. And then we'll ignore the disagreements. We'll do it my way anyways. And that was a joke. Let's see, so new variable, and this is going to be the ammo class, and then again this will be the actor class that we want, and we'll put this next to ammo type because that makes sense to me, assuming I can figure out where to put ammo type. Here we go, and we'll default that to nothing. We'll go ahead and go back into our character weapon. And we'll go ahead and find our variables. We have an ammo class. And this is again an actor class. Expose it so we can create it. Drop it in the correct spot. Let's see how lucky we get this time. Alright, we got it the first try. Go back to our character. Make sure our character passes along the ammo class on creation. Like that. And then now we can go back down to here, right here. And our code, instead of this and needing to define it in here, is simply the ammo class. And we pass it in like this. So now, inside my data table, as long as my grenade has the correct ammo class, which is going to be the grenade, now it should spawn it in without an issue. So let's find out. Grab our grenade launcher. Okay, that looks like it's working well.
Bang.
And we should be able to simply now go into our weapon, and we can make a child blueprint, and we'll call this one the projectile rocket. And we can go into here. Technically, I need to replace this with a stack mesh, so let's go fix that now. Yeah, this should have been a static mesh and not a sphere, because we want to replace it in the children. So we'll go back to our grenade, since I broke our grenade. And our stack mesh needs to be a sphere. Unfortunately, we don't have one yet. So we get to do the lovely, whoops, that would be me minimizing the wrong program. We get to do the lovely job of creating a sphere and turn it into a mesh. So geometry, sphere. I don't think we need one quite that big. 14 seemed to have been good for what we had before, yeah. Or 12, tessellation, 100? I don't know, I think that might be a bit too much for a sphere. That's pretty friggin' awesome, actually. I can only go to 5. Can I not make a round sphere inside of bear with me. Let's see if we have any meshes we can steal from the editor content. Because I don't have oh, there we go. Editor sphere. Okay, cool. We'll steal one of these. Ooh, that's a cool looking. Ooh. I found a sphere I can steal that looks really cool. Look at this sphere. Look at that. Oh, we are so gonna steal that as our grenade projectile. Oh yeah, I like that. So, meshes, weapons, whoops, and I just lost that. Where'd it go? This one, right? So weapons, meshes, copy here. We're gonna call this one the stack mesh grenade. I should probably call it projectile grenade. Okay, this is insanely overkill for a grenade, considering how many triangles and vertices there are, but I don't care. I think it's gonna look really cool. Okay, so we'll go back to our grenade. We'll put in our, let's kill our engine content. We'll put our grenade in here. It's way too big, of course. And I still think it's going to be way too big. It looks like our collision sphere is way too small. So let's see, 0.1. Okay, 0.15. 0.15, 0.15. I guess that'll work, right? Yeah, we'll go with 0.15. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's go back to play.
Bang.
There we go. Look at those sexy
Bang.
grenades.
Bang.
Okay, so we were in the middle of making a rocket launcher. Now that I have a different stack mesh, I can put a different mesh in here for the rocket launcher and change the variables. So I'm actually going to change the variables first since I'm in here. We are not going to have gravity on this one. So we're going to let it go straight without having any form of gravity because we can, and we are not going to allow it to bounce. It's basically going to hit the target. Now we're going to find another mesh. I guess we could just, oh, this is really cool. Look at this. They have a generic HMD in here now. Oh, that's awesome. But that was sidetracked. I mean, I guess we could just take the same ball and stretch it. I was hoping there would be something really cool in here to, oh, what if we do this? What if we take this cube and turn this into a rocket? Okay, that sounds like a good idea to me. We'll do that, and we'll call this one our SM rocket. Okay. So we'll go back into here. We'll assign that as our mesh. Now we're going to definitely have some problems here. Definitely have some problems. And we're going to have to work on those. But that's up to me to get fixed here. I have a bad feeling that the way I designed this isn't going to work properly. But let's deal with that in a second, shall we? We can rotate this, like we expect. And the problem is our collision item. We can't rotate our collision item because it's technically our it's technically our root. So its transform is relative to the world rather than relative to its parent, because its parent technically is the world. So if I was to, for example, 60 and 25, might even be more like 150. We'd be able to have a proper thing like this. The problem is the entire thing needs to be rotated because we're firing straight out on the x-axis. So we technically have a small issue here. Now, if we were to, let's see what happens if we try to do the traditional way of cheating this. If we grab our weapon projectile, we add a new scene component, and we put that scene component as our new root. No, I don't want the effing projectile movement as... That is annoying. I want the scene component as our root. Thank you. This allows us to have our collision have the ability to be rotated, which is what we wanted. I don't know what's going to happen when we actually fire it. So let's go back to our grenade. I have a feeling that's not going to work properly with our projectile movement. I mean, we're going to find out here in a second, because that is what experimentation is about. So let's see what happens.
Bang.
Okay, so we don't have collision. I'm pretty sure it's because so poop. Our root doesn't have collision. And that's the way when we are using our movement, it works. That's why it went through the wall there. Poopity poop 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 poop. I say poop. That's about all I can say on this one. I'm trying to make this as generic as possible. I mean, there's ways around this by having all of our weapons facing the proper way, all of our projectiles facing the proper way, and having proper collision. We could move the collision onto the mesh itself instead of being a collision volume. Crap, if anyone has any suggestions or ideas on an easy way to make this expandable, feel free to let me know. I've only got about 15 minutes left today before I have to head out. And I'm trying to make this as expandable as possible. You can I'm purposely running into issues so that way we can discover ways of resolving them. With the way that's set up right now, for example, if I was to rotate my collision my stack mesh is under the collision volume, that's fine. We rotate like that, we'll reset our, we'd end up with something like, whoa, that was definitely the wrong number to type in. We could still end up with something like this, which is what we'd want for the rocket launcher, which is good. The problem is where any collision is going to check the root and not these things, so we run into an issue there. Which I'm not happy with, unfortunately. And let's double check and make sure before I assume that this is incorrect. But this should still not work. Yeah, see, it's not going to block because, again, because of physics, we're checking the root on the physics, and our root has no collision. So we cannot do that. we have to have our collision volume as our root. That's pretty much what we're going to have to do. And once again, our projectile movement decided to be the root. Because it's a giant pain in my butt.
Bang.
Yeah.
Bang.
And which is fine in this case, because the projectile movement technically doesn't count. We just need the collision volume to be there. But we can't rotate the collision volume. And we get, and this is the problem I was gonna, let me show you the problem that we're gonna run into here. Except that it's an extremely odd bug. That's kind of weird. I think we ended up accidentally breaking something. Let's find out. Now I'm super duper curious.
Bang.
Alright, once again, grab 2 weapons.
Bang.
Yeah. So this is the issue we're going to run into. It's going to spawn it vertically. Even though it shows it like this is wrong. This vertical is that way. We've just ended up rotating everything because we killed the root incorrectly. Yeah. So, I mean, this is all just... This thing inherited horribly, horribly wrong. Let me kill that. That's an interesting bug there. It works properly in the gameplay, but it did not work properly in the preview here. Because the proper thing... Oh, did I just create a child of the friggin' grenade? Yes, I did. Let's make sure we create childs of the proper classes, shall we? I don't think I'm going to be able to get this solved today, unfortunately. So, yeah, this is our problem. We'll put in that rocket. And I mean, you can already see we have a huge issue. We technically have the right collision volume around this, but it's going to spawn X. Our X forward is the way the projectile is going to go. So when we fire this thing out... Once again, here we go. Okay. Oh, I need to assign the correct class because we killed it, and you can see right here it's a dead class, but the reference was still set. There we go. Pull this back out.
Bang.
Yeah, and you can see it's spawning basically
Bang.
that direction, and because it's
Bang.
hitting with collision, it's not really going anywhere. So poopity poop. We technically want that a lot smaller and a lot more rotatier. Now we could rotate it, but then our collision volume is wrong. Now I could technically change this collision volume into a box, which kind of gives us a little bit weird results. And that might have to be what I'm going to end up doing here. Like that, though. All I want to do is rotate my damn collision volume. Or tell it that the Z is going to be our forward direction. So, I mean, that's the other option. Because inside of our... blah 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 character, inside of our firing method, we're technically spawning it in the direction now, but see, it's still gonna go. Oh, you know what? Technically the projectile movement goes in this velocity right here, so we told it to go along the Z, it would go along the Z. But I still think it's gonna look wrong. I think that's gonna be an issue. It's definitely gonna be rotated wrong.
Bang. Bang.
It's also not moving at all. Whoa, that's freaking awesome.
Bang.
Look at that.
Bang.
Okay, so obviously we've got issues, and it's just the way this thing's designed. Let's make this smaller because it is way too freaking big right now. Let's go with like 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Let's give ourselves a collision volume of... let's give ourselves basically a no collision volume. So apparently my collision is way too big. Okay, so let's try this, shall we?
Bang.
There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, see?
Bang.
So it's going in the Z,
Bang.
as you can
Bang.
see like that.
Bang.
So that's fine. The problem is we don't have it rotated. So, I mean, technically, if we were to rotate where we spawned it, the actor, correctly, it would be fine. The problem is, I mean, it's a crappy workaround. It's a crappy workaround. I think I'm going to do a little more research on finding the proper way of doing this. My biggest issue is the... You know what? What if I did it Z forward on all of them? And we used the proper... We did the half height, and we just assumed Z forward instead of X forward. What if we did that? And we assume... We know we can't change our collision volume to what we want. We know we have to keep our collision volume basically as a capsule in the vertical orientation like this. So what if we went ahead and assumed that was what we wanted? So Z up is going to be our forward direction on our projectiles. And then we went into our weapon. If we found our weapon, where's our weapon? Here we go. And we changed our firing socket to be Z forward. So we just changed our rotation like that. So now our firing socket is Z forward.
Bang.
There we go.
Bang.
Granted, it's not working properly because I probably don't have the proper speeds in, or I don't know what it is. But it is rotating properly and it's firing properly. Technically, we're going to have a problem with our other projectile, our grenade. But the nice part about that, actually, you know what? Since the damn grenade's a circle, it really doesn't matter, does it? No, we shouldn't have a problem with the grenade. Never mind. Let's say if we change this back to grenade, what would happen? Oh, yeah, actually, sorry. I apologize. We are going to have a problem with our grenade because our grenade is set to go X forward for the velocity. Yep, that's right. So on our projectile movement, we don't want velocity on the X, we want velocity on the Z. Now,
Bang.
there we go. Our grenade's going to give us the same result as before.
Bang.
With the proper orientation. So see, there are ways of resolving things. You just have to hit your head against the table a couple dozen times. And this is why our grenade launcher, or not grenade launcher, rocket launcher is not working properly. We have not given it any actual velocity. So it's kind of just sitting there, and without gravity turned on, which is gravity, here we go. Yeah, let's do that. And let's see what happens. Oops. Back to our data table. Back to our weapon data table. Back to our grenade launcher. Back to, this is a rocket, right? There we go. Let's see now.
Bang. Bang.
Okay, obviously we've done something horribly
Bang.
wrong. I wonder if I'm firing it backwards. No, because we have Z forward, right? Yeah. Oh. I wonder if... Let's turn off all collision. I wonder if it's colliding with ourselves when we're spawning it. The gun.
Bang.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Bang. Bang.
Okay, that's working awesomely. We just need to fix our collision. I had a feeling that might have been it. So let's go with custom. First of all, we want block all dynamic. And then we will go with custom. And then we'll tell it not to block ourselves. Which I don't think is going to matter. Is it going to... No, because it's colliding with the weapon. It would probably be smarter to have a proper collision channel in here for ammo, which we don't have in here. So I'm going to add that onto the list, and we're going to work on that more tomorrow. We're going to have to change that over, because there's no way I can set this up for... I can do this right now. Unfortunately, I have other stuff I have to go out and do. But we know it's working now is the key, and we know why it's not working. No. So let me update this. Rodney, I do see your question. Give me a second. Okay, so we have these things we need to fix, and then we'll add in proper collision settings for the ammo. Are we still calling this ammo? I guess we call it for the projectile ammo blueprints as they collide with ourselves when we fire them. Okay, so we'll do that. That will pretty much wrap up what we're working on today. We got the basic projectiles in and working, so that's good. I also should probably get rid of this since we don't use this anymore. And the question, how did you rotate the pivot? Which pivot are we talking about, Rodney? Are we talking about the pivot on the... well, I'll just try to go over everything and you'll let me know. So we have our weapon here. And on the pistol, we have a socket. So I rotated the socket so that way when the socket, whatever we're attaching to the socket... Oh, rotate, you just rotate. Oh, you can use the shortcut. The keyboard shortcut is E to rotate anything. It switches you over to the rotate thingy. It's also up here for rotate. So all I did was change the socket rotation to have W, Z forward. So that way we're going to fire off on the Z. And then, yeah, I mean, that's how you rotate anything. And I'm basically using this socket as a pivot point for my projectile when it fires. Yeah, I rotated the socket, correct. But technically, the socket is what I'm using as a pivot point for... well, first of all, there is a way to rotate the pivot if we're talking about a mesh. Are we talking about a mesh? You have right here. You can actually adjust... If you've imported a mesh into Unreal Engine, you'll have the option down here under Transform, and you'll have the option on the import to adjust the pivot translation, so that's basically the location of where the pivot's going to be, and the rotation of the pivot point. And those are right here under Transform. But this will only show up if you've imported the static mesh. If it's a static mesh that was created in the engine, or it was a static mesh that you made like out of a BSP, then it's not going to work. But if you import, you have the ability to just transform, and the translation is your pivot point, and the rotation is the rotation of the pivot point. Like here, you can see I've rotated 90 degrees. If I was to do 0, for example, go back up to Mesh and re-import, I'm going to get an error because I actually deleted the source object. But once it was done, it would apply that new rotation. So I need to put that back to 90, which I hope I had. It doesn't really matter since I can't re-import it. Yeah, I've recently wiped everything off the machine yesterday, so I nuked all of my source assets because I didn't think I need them again. Yes, if your pivot is off, import it. It'll allow you to adjust the pivot on import, or just go in here and adjust it afterwards. Just, you know, oh, I want the pivot to be here. You know, it's like, for example, on this one, you'll notice the pivot's dead in the middle. If I wanted the pivot to be up, I could say, okay, I want it to be up 15. And then go up to Mesh, Asset, sorry, and re-import, and it'll re-import with these adjusted settings. So now your pivot point is going to be up 15, and then just keep screwing with it till you get the right pivot point. That's the easiest way of doing it. But again, that will only show up if you imported the mesh. That's something to keep in mind. Only if it's imported. If it's a built-in mesh, or it's a mesh that... like, for example, you can see they import it from here and it has the settings. But if it's a BSP mesh, I created it inside the editor and create a static mesh at it, it will not work. So that's going to wrap up today. I appreciate everyone for hanging out. I really wish I could have streamed longer, but I've got, you know, families in town, all that fun stuff. Monday will be another day, though. We will finish up our projectile weapon with... hell or high water, we will finish it up, and we'll finish up all these little funky errors right here, and then we'll start working on the ability to have enemies and shooting the modes and everything next week. So I think next week is going to be fun. We might be able to actually have a playable something other than all this. In theory, here's all the stuff we can do to make a weapon. Now we're going to use our weapon to blow shit up. So everything applies like normal. I appreciate everyone for hanging out and feedbacking. Feel free to contact me via email, comments on the YouTube, comments on the blueprint spreadsheet you have. Blueprint spreadsheet you see here. Twitch, Beam, Twitter, whatever you feel like. Feel free to get back to me if you need help or have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Other than that, I'll see everyone on Monday. I'm going to let the stream idle for about 30 seconds so it just doesn't disappear.